Right then, you lot, gather round because today we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill Ford Fiestas or Toyota Corollas. No, today we're delving into the dusty, cobweb-filled corners of the automotive world, where strange and wonderful beasts reside. Cars so rare, so uniquely designed that even your mate, who claims to know everything about cars, will be scratching their heads. We're talking about machines that look like they were designed by a drunken committee of Salvador Dali, Nikola Tesla, and a very enthusiastic spaniel. Cars with more power than sense, more quirks than a British sitcom, and more presence than a lion in a phone booth. So, buckle up, grab a cuppa, and prepare to have your automotive horizons broadened. And don't forget to tell us in the comments which of these mechanical oddities tickle your fancy the most. First up, we have a car that embodies the American dream, or at least the dream as it was in 1948. The Tucker 48, affectionately nicknamed the Torpedo, was the brainchild of Preston Tucker, a man with more ambition than a hamster on a wheel. He wanted to build the safest, most innovative car America had ever seen, and for a brief shining moment, it looked like he might just pull it off. This thing was revolutionary for its time. We're talking independent suspension on all four wheels, a perimeter frame for added safety, and a centrally mounted third headlight that turned with the front wheels. Imagine that. A headlight that anticipates your every move, like a loyal but slightly dim-witted dog. And then there's the engine. Oh, the engine! A 5.8-liter flat six, originally designed for a helicopter, churning out a then-whopping 166 horsepower. It was like stuffing a Clydesdale into a shopping trolley and giving it a prod with a cattle prod. But alas, the Tucker 48's story is a tragic one. Plagued by production delays, negative press, likely fueled by those pesky Big Three automakers, and financial woes, only 51 Tuckers ever saw the light of day, making it rarer than a sober Scotsman on Hogmanay. Despite its untimely demise, the Tucker 48 remains a symbol of American ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of automotive excellence. It's a reminder that even the most ambitious dreams can take flight, if only for a brief, glorious moment. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to find a tissue. This tale of automotive woe has brought a tear to my eye. Next, we hop over to the 1980s, a time of shoulder pads, synth pop, and cars that looked like they were designed by someone who had just finished a marathon session of Pac-Man. Enter the Vector W8, a car so outrageous, so over the top, that it makes a Countach look like a Volvo. The brainchild of Gerald Wiegert, the Vector W8, was America's answer to the European supercar establishment. It was a rolling testament to excess, with sharp angles, a wedge-shaped body, and enough scoops and vents to make a Formula One car jealous. Underneath that flamboyant exterior beat the heart of a lion on steroids. A twin-turbocharged 6.0-liter V8 engine, producing a mind-bending 625 horsepower, and propelling the W8 from 0 to 60 miles per hour in a face-rearranging 3.9 seconds. That's faster than you can say Miami Vice. Inside, the Vector W8 was a curious mix of luxury and fighter jet cockpit. Think leather, Alcantara, and enough buttons and switches to make the space shuttle look like a child's toy. But like a long-haired rocker with a penchant for destruction, the Vector W8 was not without its flaws. Its build quality was, shall we say, questionable, and its reliability was about as predictable as the British weather. Still, there's something undeniably cool about the Vector W8. It's a car that refused to be ignored, a brash and bold statement of American muscle in a world of refined European exotica. It's the automotive equivalent of a bald eagle screeching the Star-Spangled Banner while doing a burnout. Now, let's pop over to the land of warm beer, questionable cuisine, and oddly enough, some of the most bonkers sports cars ever devised. I'm talking, of course, about the TVR Cigaris, a car that looks like it was designed by a committee of drunken bees with a penchant for heavy metal music. From its bug-eyed headlights to its side exit exhausts, the Cigaris is a rolling testament to the fact that the British have a very unique sense of style. It's the kind of car that makes you want to shout, "Tally-ho!" and chase a fox through the countryside, preferably while wearing a tweed jacket and a monocle. But don't let its whimsical appearance fool you. Underneath that fiberglass body lies the heart of a true sports car, a naturally aspirated 4.0-liter straight-six engine producing a healthy 406 horsepower and a sound that could wake the dead. Driving the Cigaris is an experience unlike any other. It's raw, it's visceral, and it requires your full attention. Think of it as riding a unicycle on a tightrope while juggling chainsaws. Exhilarating? Absolutely. Terrifying? Possibly. Sadly, TVR is no more, having gone the way of the Dodo and the Betamax tape. But the Sagaris remains a shining example of what happens when British engineering meets a healthy dose of madness. It's a car that makes you want to throw caution to the wind, grow your hair long, and start a rock band. Just make sure you wear earplugs. That straight-six engine means business. Chapter 4. The Spiker. C8. Dutch courage in a carbon fiber suit. From the rolling hills of England we journey to the land of windmills, tulips, and surprisingly, a car company that builds machines as sleek and sophisticated as a well-tailored suit. I'm talking of course about Spiker and their masterpiece the C8. Now you might not have heard of Spiker, and frankly I wouldn't blame you. They're about as common as a vegetarian butcher, but those in the know, those who appreciate automotive artistry at its finest, revere the Spiker C8. Just look at it. It's a symphony of flowing lines, elegant curves, and exquisite details. The exposed gear linkage, the aircraft-inspired interior, the polished aluminum accents, it's enough to make a grown man weep with joy. And then there's the performance. The C8 packs a 4.2-liter Audi-sourced V8 engine, mounted in the middle, naturally. Because a car this beautiful deserves an engine note to match. We're talking 400 horsepower, a top speed north of 185 miles per hour, and handling that's sharper than a politician's promise. But the real beauty of the Spiker C8 lies in its details. The hand-stitched leather, the milled aluminum gauges, the fact that each car is essentially hand-built. It's a car that oozes craftsmanship, a testament to the fact that some things are still best done the old-fashioned way. If you ever have the chance to see a Spiker C8 in the flesh, do yourself a favor and take it. It's an automotive work of art. A reminder that even in today's world of mass production, true beauty can still be found if you know where to look. Chapter 5. The Bristol Fighter. When luxury meets supersonic speed, right then you lot, prepare to have your minds officially blown, because we're about to delve into the world of the Bristol Fighter, a car that's as British as a cuppa and as bonkers as a badger in a biscuit tin. Now, Bristol Cars, for those unfamiliar with this enigmatic mark, has always been a bit of an anomaly. They've been building luxurious, handcrafted cars for the discerning, and presumably very wealthy, few since the 1940s. But the Fighter, oh my, the Fighter was something else entirely. Imagine, if you will, a car that looks like it could take off and fly to the moon, but also happens to have leather seats, softer than a baby's bottom, and enough wood trim to make a rainforest jealous. That's the Bristol Fighter in a nutshell. And speaking of nuts, the one powering this beast is a thing of wonder. A Chrysler-sourced 8-liter V10 engine, kicking out a tire-shredding 525 horsepower in standard trim. But wait, there's more. If you were feeling particularly brave or possibly unhinged, you could opt for the Fighter S, which packed a supercharged version of that same V10, boosting the power output to a frankly ludicrous 660 horsepower. Performance? Well, let's just say that the Bristol Fighter could give a Ferrari a run for its money and probably steal its lunch money while it was at it. 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 4 seconds? Check. A top speed north of 200 miles per hour? Check. The ability to make grown adults squeal like children on a roller coaster? Check and check. Sadly, Bristol Cars went the way of the dinosaurs back in 2020, which is a crying shame because the world needs more cars like the Fighter. Cars that are unapologetically bonkers, ridiculously fast, and built with the kind of attention to detail that would make a Swiss watchmaker blush. Chapter 6. The Panos Esperante American muscle meets European flair. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to cross the pond and head back to the good old US of A for a gander at the Panos Esperante, a car that's as American as apple pie, and yet somehow manages to exude a certain European charm. Now, Panos is one of those small independent American car companies that you've probably never heard of unless you're a die-hard car nut. But trust me, they build some seriously cool machines. And the Esperante, well, it's the automotive equivalent of a bald eagle wearing a beret and sipping espresso. This car is all about curves. From its long flowing hood to its sculpted rear end, the Esperante is a masterclass in automotive design. It's the kind of car that makes you want to toss your cares aside, find a winding mountain road, and just drive. And when you do put your foot down, the Esperante responds with a roar that would make a grizzly bear proud. Early models came with a Ford-sourced 4.6-liter V8, while later versions got a 5-liter V8 borrowed from the Mustang. Either way, you're talking about a healthy dose of American muscle, enough to put a smile on your face and a few hairs on your chest. But the Panoz Esperante isn't just about brute force. It's also surprisingly refined, with a luxurious interior, a comfortable ride, and handling that's more grand tourer than out-and-out sports car. It's the kind of car you could happily drive every day, assuming you don't mind the odd double take from bewildered onlookers. Sadly, Panoz is no longer producing cars, which is a real shame. The Esperante was a breath of fresh air in a world of increasingly homogeneous automobiles. It was a car that dared to be different, a car that proved that American muscle could wear a suit and still pack a punch. Have your strudel, and eat it too. A car that's capable of scaring small children and grown adults alike. Right then, you lot. Let's talk about a car that's as British as a cuppa and as brutal as a Viking raid. I'm talking, of course, about the noble M600, a car that's less about fancy electronics and more about pure, unadulterated driving pleasure. Now, Noble might not be a household name like Ferrari or Lamborghini, but this small British company knows a thing or two about building seriously fast cars. And the M600 is their masterpiece, a car that's as raw and uncompromising as a steak tartare. Just look at it. It's not exactly what you'd call pretty, is it? It's more like a shark, all sharp angles and predatory aggression. But that's part of its charm. The Noble M600 isn't about blending in. It's about making a statement, about announcing your arrival with a roar that would make a lion proud. And speaking of roars, the M600 is powered by a Volvo-sourced 4.4-liter twin-turbocharged V8 engine. Yes, you heard that right, a Volvo engine, but don't let that fool you. This thing has been tweaked and tuned to produce a tire-shredding 650 horsepower, enough to propel the M600 from 0 to 60 miles per hour in a face-melting 3.2 seconds. But here's the really clever bit. The Noble M600 has no traction control, no stability control, no electronic nannies whatsoever. It's just you, the car, and a whole lot of power waiting to be unleashed. It's a car for drivers who know what they're doing, drivers who like their cars with a bit of bite. So, if you're looking for a car that's all about pure, unadulterated driving thrills, the Noble M600 is well worth a look. Just be sure to pack your driving gloves and a spare pair of trousers. You're going to need them. Right then, you lot. Prepare to be amazed because we're about to journey to the land of Lego, pastries, and believe it or not, a car company that builds machines as ferocious as a Viking warrior. I'm talking, of course, about Zenvo and their outrageous creation, the ST1. Now, Zenvo Automotive might not be a household name, but this small Danish company has a knack for building cars that are as rare as hen's teeth and as powerful as a runaway train. And the ST1, well, it's their magnum opus, a car that's as wild and untamed as a Scandinavian storm. Just look at it. It's like a cross between a Lamborghini and a fighter jet, with more curves than a burlesque dancer, and enough presence to make a Hummer look like a smart car. It's the kind of car that makes you want to grow your hair long, don a horned helmet, and pillage the nearest village. Or at least, drive very, very fast. And speaking of fast, the Zenvo ST1 is powered by a 7.0-liter supercharged and turbocharged V8 engine that produces a mind-bending 1,104 horsepower and 1,054 pound-feet of torque. Yes, you heard that right. Over 1,000 horsepower. That's enough grunt to tow a small planet, or at least reach a top speed of 233 miles per hour. But the Zenvo ST1 isn't just about brute force. It's also surprisingly sophisticated with a bespoke interior crafted from the finest materials and a chassis that's been honed to perfection on both road and track. It's a car that's as comfortable cruising on the Autobahn as it is carving up corners on a race circuit. Sadly, only 15 Zenvo ST1S were ever built, making it rarer than a vegan at a barbecue. But if you ever have the chance to see one in the metal, do yourself a favor and take it. It's a testament to the fact that even in a world of mass production, true automotive passion can still prevail. Revving and your eyes on the road.